Okay, today we're going to have some fun. We say that we're going to have some fun. Today we're going to be working with the clone tool and with layers. We're going to start working in Photoshop in ways that really starts to show the strength and some of the real advantages and powers of Photoshop. So where we've learned in the past some mechanical things, today we're going to start working on really problem solving and how to go about doing that. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we've got to go in and load or download a photo from the blog. So you're going to go to the blog, go to course resources, and then you'll go to 1400 online, and the image that you've got to download, or that I want you to download, is the one, the Florence Harrelson store. So go ahead and download that, and then open that up in Photoshop, and we'll talk to you again. Okay, welcome back. You should all have your Florence Harrelson store image up. You'll see it's an old kind of vintage photo that's been damaged. Today we're going to be working on that and repairing it. Go ahead and hit your F key so that it will frame it and you'll have a large amount of space there to work from. Now there are a couple of different palettes we're going to be using. Specifically, we're going to be using the Layers palette, and then we're going to be using some of our tools here. So let's go in now, first of all, and let's evaluate this photo. We've got to fix this area right here. We want to restore this photo and kind of make it not necessarily a return it to perfect, but we want to make it a little more clear. You can see it's a little faded here in the middle. We've got some ink here and this area right here that we want to fix. So first of all, we're going to go in and we're going to fix this area right here. We're going to use the clone tool for it, but let's zoom in by pushing the space bar and the command key. That will give us our zoom tool, and that will allow us to zoom in close to see what we're working with. Now I'm going to use the clone tool. I'm going to come over here. You'll notice in this family there are a couple of different members of the family. There's a clone stamp and then the pattern stamp. We're going to stick with the clone stamp tool. Now, because this has a textured area right in here, because this is all textured, we're going to want to stick with the textured brush as we clone. What the clone tool does is it allows us to copy certain areas and replace or cover up areas that are damaged. But in order to do that, we have to be able to see what it is that we're copying, or we have to tell the computer what it is that we want to copy. To do that, we'll hold the Option key down and you'll see a little crosshair. So by pushing the Option key down, what that's going to do is say, alright, I'm going to get a little crosshair, and this is going to be the place that I sample from. So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to make sure that I'm on a textured brush at 100%. So if I push Option and click, now I can let go of Option, and I'll come over here, and I'm going to click and start dragging around. Now you'll see what will happen is it's duplicating this area right over here. So I'll come here and I'll be able to click and drag over those spaces. Now when I do that, I want to make sure that I'm matching up my tones. You'll see I've got this darker area here that I'm trying to duplicate over here. Here where it becomes a little lighter, I don't want to come here, select that, and come down here and duplicate it because it creates the wrong texture. I want to try to stay with like areas. So I'm going to push Option, click here, and I'm going to come down into this area, and I'll just drag around, and periodically I'm going to let go with the mouse, and just so that it will allow me to sample other areas. And so that it doesn't look like it's just duplicating it completely, I'm going to push Option, click in a new area, and maybe come over and drag a little bit of that space there. I'll do the same thing over here. I've got this area here that I have to duplicate, so I'm going to click here with the Option key pressed, then let go of the Option key, and I'll come in and I'll duplicate over this. Now I'll push Option, select another area, and drag over that. I want that to kind of blend in. Push Option, let go, come over here, and just clone out that area right here. And then finally I'll come over here in the same area and I'm going to pull that out. Okay, and that will allow me to get rid of all that. Now I'll zoom out to see how it looks and to see if it's working. It feels like it works pretty good. I can see a little bit of a lighter area here, so I'll push my Option key and I'll come in and drag over that area, back and forth, just to kind of mix that up. I'm going to come over here and do the same thing, and I'll get you started, and then I want you to go ahead and continue to do it, and then you'll finish up. And when you're done with this, then we'll come over, start your video again, and we'll come over and we're going to work on this section right here. Okay, now we're going to come in and fix this. Now this is exactly the same as what we did over here with those blue lines, only in this case we're getting a bigger area. So I'm going to push my Option key again, and I'm going to come over here and just start dragging over the top of that. Now one thing I want to make sure of is you'll see that there are areas that are exactly the same. This area right here, for example, is exactly the same as this. This is called scalloping, when you can see the same thing over and over. That repetition will be a giveaway that there's something going on, or that you've kind of cheated and faked this. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this little section right here by just pushing Option. I'll select there, and I'm going to come here and just clone over that so that I don't have just the exact same thing repeating itself. Now I'll come back up here, and I'm going to go in and mask out all of this. Okay, or not mask it, I'm sorry. I'm going to go in and clone all of this. Now periodically you'll notice I'll get the hand and it will move this around. All I'm doing is pushing the space key, or the space bar, and that will change it to the hand and allow me to drag it around. By changing your framing function, it allows you to be able to go in and move this around and have a little more flexibility in your work in, so that's why I like that. Now I want you to go in and just clone this area here, and you'll notice that you've got to be a little more careful in this area. I'm going to zoom in a little closer so I can kind of see. You've got to be a little more careful how you're cloning in this area, like that. I'll zoom back out, bring in this area, and make sure I'm getting this shadow right along there so that it's matching. So you're going to go in and clone that area out as well. Now this is a little tougher here because we've got some sort of figure back here. We can't clone him. So I'm going to come here and get some of this and try to just clone in and just deceive people. It doesn't have to, people aren't going to be looking so closely and say, oh, wait a second, that's not matching. So you just want to try to go in and get as close of a match as you can when you're doing that. So go ahead and finish up that, and then when you come back, we'll start working on this area right up here where we've got this. Alright, we've got some great areas here that we've cloned. We've been able to get rid of this right here, these blue lines. We've been able to get rid of this extra area here. Now let's talk about how we're going to fix this. Now this is going to involve using a couple of other tools, not just cloning, but using a couple other tools, and also going in and starting to work with our layers. Okay? Now, I'm going to get, because there's no place really, we've got this really kind of angled line, it's very difficult to clone along there. So what we really want to do is use our resources. And one of our resources for this top of this building is this area right over here. Now we want to get the most of this that we can as far as using it. So we'll go in with the clone tool in this section, and we're going to clone this part out, and we'll have to be really careful and make sure that we're only getting right on the edge. I missed that a little bit here. So we'll go in and just kind of clone that area so that now we have a large space. Ooh, you can see where I've kind of made some mistakes in there, where my tone is off just a little bit, and that will really stick out if I'm not careful. Okay, we fixed that whole area there. Now, I need to get my lasso tool, and I'm going to select a large space like this. Now, if I can use my regular lasso tool. In this case, I'm going to use my polygon lasso tool. I just think it's a better tool for it. I'm going to click and get all of this space. Go really low. So I've got all of that area right there. Okay, all of that's selected. Now I'll go to Edit, Copy, or I can push Command C, and then Edit, Paste. Now, it's not going to look like anything has changed, but if you go over to your layers palette, and if you don't have the layers palette out, go to your window, layers, and that will open it. You go to layers palette, you'll see that there's something new right there. In fact, if I turn off my background layer, you can see that it's copied it and placed it in exactly the same spot that it was copied from. Well, the advantage to that is now I can get my move tool right here, and I can grab this and drag it over the top. Okay? Now, there are a couple things that you have to be aware of. These layers are really beneficial because they allow us to really have a lot of flexibility. In old versions, you couldn't do that. You weren't able to copy and paste on a new layer and manipulate it or change it from there. So this is really an advantage. Now let's look at this just a little bit. Right now we're off on these just a little bit. You'll see that we've got a little different angle here. So I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, and my transform tool of choice is Distort. You could use Skew or different things like that, but in this case Distort works, I think, best for me. I can click right here in the middle of that and just move it up just a hair and then hit Return. And you'll see that that line now is going to continue across. And if you blur your eyes a little bit, you can tell a little closer. Okay. Now we've got a little bit of a problem here in that we can see a change, and we can also see these little bars coming that are in the wrong spot. But those aren't that important, and I'll show you why. First of all, I'm going to decrease my opacity of this layer just a little bit, and we can see where this image is. Okay, now we'll come back to that in a moment. I'm going to put it back in here. What we want to do is hide some of this area right here where it's not blending in very well, and hide some of this where it's not working. The way we do that is by creating a mask. At Halloween you wear a mask so that people can't see who you are, or you can hide your identity. Here we put in a mask to be able to hide certain layers or certain things on there. So I'm going to come over to my layers palette, and if you look right down here at the base, there's a little icon right here that represents putting a layer mask. Now I'm selected on layer 1. I'll click right there, and that creates a mask. Now everything that I paint in this mask that's black will hide information right here. Anywhere that's white will allow you to see everything that's going on there. Okay, let me give you an example. You'll notice my foreground color is black. I'll select on my paintbrush. My opacity is 100%, and my brush is 15 pixels wide. Now I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that you can see it. I'll hit my right bracket to enlarge that. I'm going to draw a line like that. Now notice you can't see anything here. Even though I painted in black here, you can't see it here. Well, the reason is this. It actually painted that black over here in the layer mask, and what that did was cover up that area. Now if I paint it white, I can swap those colors. I can go like this, and you'll see that it's painted a white line through there, and now you can see that area here again. Now if I paint with a feathered brush, it's going to give me a feathered edge. In this case I'm painting white with a little bit of a feather, so it's giving me that soft blend. And so that will allow a really smooth transition between those. Okay. I can also, let's say I paint a really hard line again. Every tool that you use in this layer, you can also use in this layer. If I come in here with the blur tool, I can blur, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see better. I can blur that mask, and it will soften that transition. See how we have this hard corner? I can click and blur, and it will soften. Well, it won't because there's no black there, but I'll come over here. We've got a hard line, and I'll blur that, and you can see that